What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what you should be watching for as time goes on, and how things are looking as I give you guys my price predictions for tomorrow. But before I break into the all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. How are things looking? Looking at SPY, we got this double top leg formation that's been forming. We actually approached this resistance. We got this nice rejection 2 times off 503. Now, upon getting this rejection, this could be the start of a new downtrend as we saw this thing kind of rebound on Friday, grabbing more liquidity here before getting this big rejection. Now, this would make the daily candlestick a lot more bearish, and this does suggest that there could be more downside coming. But remember, what happened on Tuesday/Wednesday is not extremely significant. What's going to be more significant than that's going to be Nvidia's earnings. So whatever happens to Nvidia is going to cause the market to either run more or even get a bigger rug pull. So we'll be watching to see what happens then. But for today, the market was closed, which is why I didn't really upload too much. I was trying to take a bit of a break from the charts and such. But today's Monday, February 19th. I hope you guys are having a very happy President's Day. Just using this as a day to kind of appreciate what we have. And I know everyone can have their own different views about the president. I completely understand that, or any president in general. But it is what it is, guys. We just have to appreciate our privileges nonetheless and be grateful for the country we have. Now, with that being said, you could do whatever you want. Please take care of your own selves and enjoy the holiday. But I just want to remind you all that with the market being closed today because of President's Day, we'll be back going into tomorrow. We have very, very minor data. We just have the 3-month and the 6-month bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. Nothing too crazy, nothing too significant. And then for Wednesday, that's when we have the FOMC minutes coming out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not to mention a couple of Fed speakers, so it's all just very, very minor data. Until the FOMC minutes comes out, that's when we have the next big piece of data. Now, this is just going to be like the FOMC meeting on paper. We're going to find out more information about the different Fed officials, their insights and such. So that's pretty much it, at least for the next 2 days in terms of data. Most of it's minor except for the FOMC minutes. But then on Wednesday, after the market closes, we have Nvidia's earnings coming out. Nvidia is going to be very, very important because Nvidia is very volatile. It has a very, very big effect on the QQQ. And it's a very, very big stock that's getting fueled by the AI hype. Now, if the AI hype helps this thing just continue to run with strong guidance, Nvidia could squeeze more and the market could run harder. The market could bounce. But if Nvidia fails to give us that catalyst and Nvidia sinks, the whole market is going to come down its way. So make sure you're prepared for this. This is going to be the biggest piece of earnings for the week. For Tuesday, which is tomorrow, we have Walmart, the Home Depot, and just a couple of others announcing their earnings. And then for after the market closes, it's all very, very minor. There's nothing really too crazy that's happening. For Wednesday, we just have a few in the morning like Wingstop and Wix and such. And then we have Nvidia after the market closes alongside Etsy. Then everything else is just kind of minor. Nothing is that insane, that crazy, at least for the week, except for Nvidia and Walmart. Moving forward, the market is so far pricing in a 91.5% probability of us getting a pause again during the next meeting, and there's only an 8% chance we get some kind of cut. The reason for this is because the latest PCE reports, not to mention CPI, has been hotter than expected. PPI was also a bit hotter than expected, so it's not the best of things we want to see. And that's part of why the market ended up selling off the way it did. So you want to be very careful when looking at this. Now, excuse me, for the fear and greed index, this is currently at extreme greed, getting closer to the greed side, kind of cooling a little bit compared to before. This used to be at 79 to 80, now it's barely at 77, coming down just a little bit because the market started to sell off a bit on Friday. Indicators are still at these extremes, so just be very careful, especially for the VIX. I'll be watching to see how well the VIX could hold above its current level. So that being said, guys, I want to make this video very quick. Let's talk about the charts. How are things looking? It's very simple, very, very simple. From my perspective, especially looking at the 4-hour time frame, SPY is looking a little bit bearish. It does look like it could retrace a bit. Look for the little liquidity grab at 499 and a drop. I think at least 497 to 496 should be tested, this range down here. And then it depends on if we end up breaking that or not. We could bounce off 496. If not, 494 is where we should see some buyers defend it. So I do anticipate a little pop and drop, and I think that it might actually trade sideways down here and just continue to range trade in this range. Now the question is, and this is what I'm going to be looking out for. I can't answer this question tomorrow. We have to wait for Nvidia to announce its earnings. Is this forming like a cup and handle? Are we going to retrace a little bit, then kind of like rebound and start pushing back up thanks to Nvidia? Or are we forming a double top and are we about to come even lower, right? If this is like a double top, you have this first top here, the second top here, a little liquidity spike right here before we just continue to downtrend into the 480s. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't want to promise anything just yet. I just want to wait and see how it goes. But in the current time, SPY looks a little bearish to me. It looks like it might cool off a little bit more to at least the 196s. I can see that coming, but then we'll see if it bounces or not from there. So make sure you guys watch that very carefully. We'll have to see how it goes and be careful looking at the double top that is formed. This does not mean SPY is going to crash forever. It could just be a temporary drop. Now, another thing we could do is we could even, draw out this nice little flag that's kind of like forming. This could also be used to kind of determine how SPY is looking. So we'll just have to wait and see. But off this flag, it might respect a little downtrend just temporarily. So look for a little liquidity grab up here, then just a continuation down just temporarily until Nvidia announces its earnings, and we'll see if we get a big break or not. I'll be watching for that very carefully. Onto the QQQ. In my opinion, it's looking the same as SPY. Now, one issue with the triple Q is the fact that we got a lower high that formed. We didn't really break this higher from a double top. It's just a little bit lower, which is just showing some potential signs of a downtrend. Right, we had this high here, we made a lower high, and we could be breaking our low. I think we're going to be looking for this thing to push to about 430 when we open, then come back down lower. If we lose 429, 427 is next followed by 425. Could drop a little bit more and then attempt to rebound close to 425 to 427. So watch and see if we see this little pop and drop and a little rebound after that. So watch for that very carefully. We'll just have to see how it goes. Looking at Nvidia, Nvidia is also going to be very important. I want to call out that Nvidia has this nice looking channel it's been stuck in, right? Every time we hit resistance around the 740s, very low 740s, we tend to get these rejections. When we hit support at 725 or so, we tend to see these nice little bounces. So, with that being said, with this trend and with this sideways price action, I think that it's very important to watch to see how this thing ends up moving. And then I would say that it is showing some weakness right now. We grabbed liquidity up here. We came back down. It's going to rebound a bit, but we'll have to see if we could try to get back above 734. It was downtrending starting on Friday, right? It actually got a weak close. So there's a chance it might actually lose support at 725. If that happens, 719 is next, followed by 715. And I think there's a good chance that's going to happen. So it might rebound a little bit and come down a little bit lower and maybe cool off a bit approaching its earnings. But then we'll have to see if this thing gets a big bounce or not after earnings comes out. So my point is, it doesn't matter so much what happens tomorrow to Nvidia, what happens on Wednesday when the market is open, because once the market closes and it announces its earnings, that's going to determine the much bigger move. So don't really worry as much about what it does for now. It is showing some weakness based off Friday, so I could see it kind of rebound and drop a bit, but then we'll have to see what happens after that. It's just best to be kind of patient. For Tesla, Tesla is looking a little bit like it's going to downtrend a bit more unless we get a bullish catalyst. Okay, but I just want to call out that Tesla has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, which does give this thing upwards potential for the future. Now, before it goes up to this like 207, 210 area, before that happens, right? There's a very good chance it might actually downtrend for a bit longer because we're starting to form a nice flag right over here. You guys can see this flag that's forming. It might reject here. If it just continues to reject, we could be approaching this breakout area, this previous resistance. It could get a back test of this and try to bounce off that. So watch and see if this thing continues to downtrend. Let's see if we can try to get back above 200. If we fail to do so, we're going to be coming back down closer to about 195 in my opinion before we try to bounce. If we break 200, our next target is going to be up to 202, then 205. But we need a bullish catalyst for this thing to bounce. What's the most likely possibility? This is forming some kind of flag, so it might downtrend for an extended period of time. Eventually get a breakout, possibly after Nvidia's earnings, or maybe because of some kind of piece of news on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll just have to wait and see. But this is what I'm basically eyeing. We'll see if Tesla can get a breakout or not. It may continue to downtrend for an extended period of time before we get the bounce. So we'll just see how it goes. That's it for the main five I typically go over, except for Aapl. I think I forgot about Aapl. Aapl, in my opinion, is in a very interesting place. This entire year, every time it hits 178 to 180, this thing bounced. So that's a critical support zone, but we're not really there yet. We're still holding in the 181 to 182 area. Now we'll be watching to see if this thing could base here. If we break 182.5, our next target is 183.5 and 184.25. If we lose 181.36 to 181, we're going to be sinking back down to that previous, demand zone all the way down here. So what do I think this is doing? I'd say that this thing is trying to base right now, so watch and see if it comes back up and down. It continues to trade sideways in this 182 to 184 area. So I think there's a very good chance it's just going to continue to do so. So we'll just have to wait and see what it does. Now, this could be a wedge that's forming, so it is showing some weakness. Look for a little rebound at first. I think it might retest 183.5, come back down, just continue to trade sideways for an extended period of time. I think it's in the process of trying to base, so we'll just have to see how well Apple could hold. But as long as we try to see this thing reverse, there will be potential for it. But it's not really there yet. It's still showing some weakness, so just be careful. We might just get some sideways price action for Apple. With that being said, I'm just going to go over a couple more. Rivian, in my opinion, is just kind of flat. It could retest 16.06. SoFi showing some weakness. I'm going to be looking for it to retest 8.17, so we'll see how well that holds. For Super Micro, for the people who are interested, this is still looking kind of weak. It got a very, very big red day on Friday. We'll see if this thing could base at 800 or 780, around that area. If it fails to hold 780, it could come down to 750 and then bounce, but I do believe it's going to bounce soon. Okay, I think it's going to bounce, but we have to see where it bases first. Do we base at 800? Is it 780? Is it 750? One of those three levels should be it. And then it's going to likely rebound to at least 877, so we'll have to wait and see. But for now, be patient and wait for this thing to base, and then we'll see where it bounces. I'm still waiting for that to happen. For Palantir, got this 25 rejection. We'll see if this could hold above 24. If we fail to do so, watch 23.25 to be tested at the 50 EMA. It's showing some weakness. It might fall a little bit more before it rebounds. For the IWM, this looks like it's going to be testing 201. If that fails us, we're going to be coming down to 198. It looks like it's going to drop a little bit more. For Microsoft, this looks a little bearish right now. We're going to be watching to see if 402 holds. If that fails to hold, because it's been basing right here. We also happen to have a head and shoulders like structure, so it does look like it could come down to about 395, close to the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. So I'm seeing some weakness in Microsoft. There's going to be a risk of more downside. For Shopify, I see this essentially testing 79.62. We'll see if this holds, because it did bounce off this previously. If we lose that, 77 is coming. If we hold, it's going to rebound to 82. My gut tells me it might break. AMD is looking a little weak. If we lose 173.5, we're going to be sinking all the way down towards 170. If we fail and we end up bouncing off this, we could actually come up to 175. My gut tells me it's going to break. It's showing some weakness. For a couple more, the VIX is showing some consolidation right now. It's been stuck between 14.3 and about 13.7. It might just continue to go back and forth, but it's going to be dictated by the market at this point. The dollar index is starting to curl right now. It's also trading sideways, so we'll see how it reacts to these resistance levels. Watch 104.29 as resistance, followed by 10. We also have resistance at 104.35, so we'll have to see how that does. And then after that, I'm just going to be patient. For Coinbase is still showing some. It got a very, very nice gap up, but now it's starting to reject right over here. We'll see how well it holds 180. If it fails to hold 180, I could see it return to about 176 to fill this gap and then bounce after that. But if it manages to hold 180 or very close to this 180 range, I could see this attempt to push higher. It could actually bounce off here. I think my best prediction would be this might actually break down a little bit, might show a little bit of weakness and come back down towards at least the lower 170s, 172, then 168, then bounce after that. So I find that to be very probable, but it's not necessarily looking too bad. It's still on a strong uptrend, might rebound just a little bit, might retrace a little bit, and then bounce after that. For Google, we're showing some weakness. We have to try to hold 140. If we fail to do so, then 138 is next. We look a little bearish right now, a little bearish of a 4-hour trend. So look for a backtest of 142.5. If we reject, 140 is coming, followed by 138. If we break past it, 144 could be next. My guts tells me it's going to downtrend for an extended period of time. For Amazon, We're looking a little bit weak right now. If we lose 168, we're going to be returning to about 165. So be careful right now. Amazon is below the 50 EMA. I could see 165 on it if we lose 168, so it's showing some weakness. And then for Meta, in my opinion, let me just double check this. It's showing some weakness as well. We got this nice rejection of 488, and we actually closed below the 20 EMA. I think there's a gap down here. I noticed there's this little gap right here. It hasn't really filled this fully. I could see it coming down to about, well, if we fail to hold 470, then 462 is coming next, basically to fill the gap. So I could see it falling into like the lower 460s if we lose 470. If we hold 470, it could rebound. My guts tells me it's going to drop a little bit. So I'm seeing some weakness in the market, at least approaching Nvidia's earnings. After Nvidia's earnings, everything could change, but we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Once again, the biggest question I have for the market is this, and SPY I think is very important. This relates to SPX as well and other tickers. Are we forming a giant cup and handle? Are we going to retrace a little bit and then get a rebound thanks to Nvidia? Or are we about to start a big downtrend off a double top rejection to start really dropping? We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.